The mirror was a family heirloom, but the thing inside it was no reflection of the past. It was a promise of a terrifying future. When Alex inherited their grandparents' house, the mirror was the one piece that felt out of place. It was a massive, ornate thing, framed in dark, intricately carved wood that seemed to drink the light from the room. The glass itself was old, with faint, silvery imperfections, but it held a strange, almost liquid depth. Moving it was a nightmare. Alex and two friends wrestled the heavy antique up the stairs to the master bedroom. They mounted it on the wall opposite the bed, its cold surface reflecting the room with unsettling clarity. That first night, Alex felt a strange chill while getting ready for bed. Standing before it, brushing their teeth, they noticed something odd. As Alex moved their arm, the reflection seemed to follow just a fraction of a second too late. A tiny, almost imperceptible lag. Alex blinked, shook their head, and dismissed it as exhaustion. The house was old, the lighting was poor, their eyes were playing tricks. But the tricks continued. The next morning, the lag was still there, a subtle, disorienting stutter. Over the next few days, it became more pronounced. Alex would raise a hand, and the reflection would wait a beat before mimicking the action. It was like watching a poorly synced video. A knot of unease began to twist in Alex's stomach. They started testing it, making quick, jerky movements, watching as their mirror image struggled to keep up, its motions becoming clumsy and delayed. Then, the mimicking started to change. One evening, while Alex was staring into the glass, feeling a growing sense of dread, they forced a smile. The reflection smiled back, but it wasn't Alex's smile. It was wider, sharper, a predatory grin that didn't reach its eyes. The eyes of the reflection were cold, flat, and held a glint of something malicious. Alex's own smile vanished, but the reflection's grin remained, lingering for a moment too long before its face settled back into a neutral expression. Fear began to curdle into sheer terror. The reflection was no longer just lagging, it was improvising. While Alex brushed their hair, the reflection would briefly run its fingers across its own throat, a sinister, slicing motion. When Alex looked away from the mirror and then back, the reflection would be standing in a different pose, its head tilted at an unnatural angle, staring. Alex started avoiding the bedroom, sleeping on the couch downstairs, but the pull of the mirror was magnetic, a morbid curiosity that was impossible to resist. One night, Alex woke to a strange sound from upstairs. A faint, rhythmic tapping, heart pounding. Alex crept up the stairs and peeked into the bedroom. The room was dark, but moonlight streamed through the window, illuminating the mirror. And inside it, the reflection was standing, its back to the glass, seemingly looking out into the bedroom. It wasn't reflecting anything. It was just there, a separate entity occupying the mirror world. Then, it slowly turned its head, and its eyes met Alex's. The grin was back, wider and more terrifying than ever. Alex slammed the door and fled, spending the rest of the night huddled in the car, shaking. The independent actions grew bolder. Alex would come home to find objects in the bedroom moved, even though the doors were locked. A book on the nightstand would be opened to a page about doppelgangers. A framed photo would be turned to face the wall. Alex knew it was the reflection, somehow extending its influence beyond the glass. The fear was constant, a suffocating blanket of dread. Alex stopped looking in the mirror altogether, covering it with a heavy sheet. But even then, they could feel it, a cold presence emanating from the wall, a watchful intelligence on the other side of the fabric. The breaking point came when the reflection began to interact with the edge of its prison. Peeking from the doorway one afternoon, Alex saw the reflection with its hand pressed against the glass. But its fingers weren't flat. They were pushing, distorting the surface of the mirror as if it were a sheet of rubber. The wooden frame creaked and groaned under the pressure. Alex watched in horror as the reflection's fingers began to push through the silver plane, elongating and becoming disturbingly real as they emerged into the bedroom. The air grew cold, and the fingers, pale and waxy, wiggled in the open air before retracting back into the mirror with a sickening, liquid sound. Alex knew they couldn't handle this alone. This was beyond a trick of the light. It was something supernatural, something evil. Panicked and sleep-deprived, Alex drove to the local sheriff's office. The officer on duty, a kind but weary man named Sheriff Brody, listened patiently. Alex's story tumbled out. The heirloom mirror, the lagging reflection, the sinister grin. the moving objects, the fingers coming through the glass. Alex knew how it sounded. Brody's expression was sympathetic but skeptical. He offered to send a patrol car to check the house for intruders and gave Alex a card for a mental health counselor. Humiliated and terrified, Alex agreed, just to have a record of the report. It was proof. An alibi. Alex sat in the sheriff's office for over an hour, filling out a detailed report, trying to make Brody understand the gravity of the situation. Just as Alex was finishing, a frantic call came over the dispatch radio. There had been a violent attack downtown, just a few blocks away. A passerby had been brutally murdered, stabbed multiple times in a seemingly random act of violence. The description of the suspect was broadcast, and a cold wave of nausea washed over Alex. The attacker was described as having Alex's exact height, build, and was wearing the same clothes Alex had on that day. Sheriff Brody looked from the radio to Alex, his eyes widening in disbelief. Alex was right there, in front of him, and had been for the past hour. It was impossible. "Stay right here," Brody commanded, his voice tight with a new kind of urgency. Alex was no longer a potential mental health case. They were at the center of something inexplicable and horrifying. They had the perfect alibi, yet they were also the prime suspect. The reflection was out. It had tasted freedom and spilled blood. The next few days were a blur of police interviews and psychological evaluations. The alibi held, but the town was gripped by fear. Alex was a walking paradox, a person proven innocent of a crime committed by their own face. They were released, but told not to leave town. The house was now a crime scene, sealed off with police tape. But they couldn't seal the mirror. Alex was forced to stay in a small, dingy motel on the edge of town, haunted by the knowledge of what was walking around free, wearing their face. Sleep offered no escape. Nightmares plagued Alex. Visions of the reflection's cold eyes and blood-stained hands. After a week of torment, exhausted and emotionally shattered, Alex finally drifted into a deep, heavy sleep. For a moment, there was peace. A silent, black void. Then, a faint sound pulled Alex back toward consciousness. A soft creak of the motel room floorboards. Alex's eyes fluttered open, adjusting to the darkness. And then they saw it. A figure was standing at the foot of the bed, silhouetted against the faint light from the window. As Alex's eyes focused, the figure leaned forward slightly, and a familiar, impossibly wide smile stretched across its face. It was the reflection. It was here. Alex opened their mouth, and a scream tore through the silent room, a raw, primal sound of absolute terror. If you were as terrified as I was, make sure to hit that like button, share this story with a friend who loves a good scare, and subscribe to see how this story ends. Thanks for watching.